And a very good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Issues and Attitudes. My name is Jeff Owens, Interim General Manager at WEIU. My co-host is Annalicia Haynes.
Hi, everyone.
Dale Wolf is here representing 4 or 5 different organizations.
Good to see you all.
Hi, Dale. And we'll definitely get some Cubs baseball talking in at the end. Making her first appearance today, our special guest is Kim Carmean. She's the new Executive Director of CASA of East Central Illinois. Welcome, Kim.
Thank you. Good afternoon.
Appreciate you coming in with Dale. I'm going to have you talk a little bit closer to that mic. Well, I guess we'll start off with Dale want to talk about one event, then we're going to get to CASA. Let's talk about the event that just happened and give us an overview of the Lincoln Log Cabin dinner, and we'll get into some CASA details.
Thank you, Jeff. We weren't able to get on before the event. It was last Friday out at Unique Suites, the Lincoln Log Cabin Foundation annual dinner, which is now an annual dinner starting this year, went on. And once again, it was a very, very good setup by the folks out at Unique. Over 120 people had a sit-down dinner, and there was some nice entertainment from a young man named Chris Valillo, who's a singer and songwriter out of Macomb, who does folk music and things of that sort. And there were some nice awards given. One to Hal Mailhorn, who many folks in town know passed away recently, who was a longtime volunteer at Lincoln Log Cabin. But we also want to remind folks, just real quickly, that the site's open every day till dusk, but the gift shop and the visitor center are open 9 to 4 from Wednesday until Sunday. So that went on last Friday night.
It was interesting also with that kind of culminated with there was some land that was once owned by Abraham Lincoln that was sold here in the county at the same time. And I don't know that much details about it, but anytime you hear land that was owned by Abraham Lincoln sold right here, and it kind of just makes you perk up and say, wow, you forget sometimes that Mr.
famous.
Lincoln roamed these grounds.
That wasn't you who was in on the bidding? It went to $300,000?
If it had been the $30, I might have had a shot.
Wrong number of zeros.
All right, well, let's talk a lot about CASA. They're kind of big news. Obviously, Kim, you're brand new there. We'll talk about that, but your 25th anniversary dinner for CASA is coming up. So let's talk about the dinner, and then we'll get to know a little bit about Kim Carmean.
Okay, the dinner is scheduled for March 29th. It'll start at 6 p.m. with a cocktail hour, followed by dinner and live entertainment from Motherlode. Tickets are $25, and you can go to the CASA website to order tickets. It's casaeci.org, and the event will be held at Unique Suites.
Awesome. Now, Kim, I know you said you were off air, you were an advocate for 3 years from CASA, but then being an advocate, then now taking over as executive director is a big change and a big shift. So I guess the question everybody always likes to ask, why did you want to be executive director? Or, what kind did you have that passion? And talk about that.
I really, really enjoyed my time as an advocate, and I'm a little bit sad that I don't get to continue to be an advocate, but as the executive director, I can be even more involved with every case instead of just focusing on the 3 cases that I did have as an advocate.
Now, I guess let's go back and take one step back. Is for those maybe who are brand new to the area, we're talking to Kim Carmean from CASA. What is CASA for the folks who have no idea that when we give that acronym out, what it is and what you all do?
CASA stands for Court Appointed Special Advocate, and when children are removed from their homes due to abuse or neglect and placed into either other family homes or foster care, CASA advocate is assigned to each case. And what we do is observe and report to the judge and try to facilitate a reunification of the family, if possible, or to advise for placement and termination of rights.
Okay.
One quick thing about the name while we're talking about the name. As some of you know and some of you may not, again, just a few years ago, the name was changed. It is now CASA of East Central Illinois. Previously, it was Coles County CASA. Yeah. So it's been because we ventured into Cumberland County just in recent years.
And you're on the board, right, Dale?
I have been a number of times. Terms do end, though, too. So.
Well, I guess the reason I want to ask is, when the board is looking for their new executive director, because, Kirsten retired. When you knew that, that Kim was up for it, or, talk about maybe the traits that you saw in her that you knew that she was the right person.
Well, for something like this, it really helps to have a knowledge of CASA per se, not just information about the area. Now, information about the area is very helpful too. I think they go hand in hand. The idea of, do you know the geographics? Do you know what the organization works with? The information was sent out as soon as Kristen decided to, well, she retired in a way, but she's actually still working for the organization statewide.
Oh, really?
So,
okay.
Yes, so she's not retired per se, but she retired from working as executive director in this area.
Okay.
So.
What do you think, either one of you can answer this, and I'll let Annalisa go. What do you think that you bring? I mean, I know you've been involved, but what do you bring as a leader now to CASA from your point of view, Kim?
I'm very excited to expand the program to get the name of CASA out there. I know when I very first started with CASA, friends would ask me, what is that? They had never even heard of it, and I'd really like to change that.
Well, I was just going to say, and I'm pretty sure this was a question that I asked the last time CASA was here, last semester, I believe it was. What's the difference between CASA and DCFS? So is that a common question that you get all the time?
Yes, it is.
Mm-hmm.
And the difference is that DCFS is regulated through the state, and their job is to reunify the family.
Mm-hmm.
And that isn't always in the best interest of the child. CASA advocates focus on the child only.
Mm-hmm.
Not that we don't care about the parents, but they are not our concern. Whatever is in the child's best interest is all we care about.
That's wonderful.
I was just going to say, in answer to something all three of you kind of brought up too, that is something that happens so often, the idea of what is CASA? And it's been around 25 years, and yet people still say that. Part of it is a little bit of visibility. So many places have an office with a name out in front. CASA has had an office for many years, but it's the lower level of the courthouse. There's no big sign out in front. So people have to know where it is.
Right.
So we're reminding people it is in the lower level of the courthouse.
I also have said for years, we've had CASA on for years, and the work you guys do is incredible. It's also stuff. It's subject matter that some people they want to get away from. They don't want to talk about the unfortunate.
Right. Well, I think that's what I was going to say was, it's almost as if people don't want to think about the fact that children are in situations like this where they need help.
Yes.
And that kind of segues into another question that I have. Why is it so important to focus on that child?
The children don't have a voice. They do not attend court hearings. They're just kind of lost in the shuffle while all the adults go through the steps that they need to go through. So we're there for that child, saying, hey, this is not a good fit. Parents aren't doing everything that they could be doing to get their children back home. Just kind of another voice for the child.
Absolutely. That's fantastic.
Now, Kim, you're brand new to at least this part of the job at CASA, so I'll put you on the spot, but if you don't know, that's fine. What about, a numbers update, like how many people are affected here in the Coles and Cumberland County areas in terms of caseload and things like that?
We currently have 32 volunteers, and we could use seriously about a dozen more. We have 70 active cases that have 143 children total. So, and we have brought on 10 new cases just since January 1st.
Wow.
We also might want to give an idea the difference between the people who are advocates and the people who are board members. And a quick mention of maybe some of the time commitment. If people out there are thinking of giving us their time, they might want to know.
I was doing some
typically.
research today. A case may last up to 18 months. Is that still the
Yes,
norm?
very much so.
So you're just not volunteering for a month. That you're getting in it long term.
That's exactly right. We ask for at a minimum an 18-month commitment. Typically, cases have tended to last longer than that, just due to circumstances with parents in court and things like that. We like to try to move things along, and we have a new judge right now from Cumberland County, and he seems to be doing a wonderful job with the parents.
Now, as an advocate, you would have how many cases? I guess your caseload, for lack of a better way, would you have if you were an advocate?
We try to assign just one case to each advocate. I have had personally as many as 3 at one time, just because the caseload is so overwhelming. There are 3 advocate coordinators that work out of our office, and they each have 10 cases of their own, just because we don't have enough advocates to assign them to.
And this is volunteer, no pay, right?
Correct.
So when you think about we need at least 12 more volunteers in the Coles and Cumberland County area for CASA, take us through that process. Let's just use, we'll use Annalisa for if Annalisa decide, hey, I'd like to be a volunteer. Could you take her through some of the steps that would need to get there?
Sure. What we do is have you fill out an application. You can get that from the office. We can mail it to you or email it to you. Once you return that, we're going to contact your references and then bring you in for an interview. If all of that goes well, we will have a training session, 30 hours of training hours for each advocate before they can begin to actually do the duties of an advocate. So after the 30 hours of training is complete, we will go before the judge and get sworn in, and then you would be assigned your first case. Everyone does have to pass a very rigorous background check with not only the police, but the FBI as well.
Oh.
If you're going to be on your first case, would maybe you or somebody go with her or with that person?
Oh, absolutely,
to make sure
yes.
that everything went well the first
Yes,
until you kind
absolutely.
of feel more comfortable in that situation.
So what are some of the things that are taught in the training sessions?
We talk about scenarios. Just because somebody has a dirty, unkempt house does not mean they aren't good parents.
Right.
There's so many layers to what goes into abuse or neglect, and we talk about that. We talk about visiting with foster parents, visiting with the children, things you should and shouldn't say. We basically
Right, that
cover
makes
that.
sense.
Okay. This is going to be a really dumb question, and I'm going to ask it anyway. But I think it's like we're obviously lucky in Coles and Cumberland County. But what about counties that don't have CASA or who protects the children in those counties? Is there a state agency, or is it just they're on their own, or is it?
Sadly, it's just DCFS.
Okay, so there are
That is one of the reasons why some years ago we tried to been working on getting Cumberland County as part of ours, and we continue to look to the future to other counties nearby.
Is there bordering counties that don't have CASA? I guess
Yes.
Yes,
I
yes,
don't
there
want to
are.
throw names
Yes.
out
No.
for speculation, but I
Yes.
mean that would be maybe something in the future if you continue to expand. But obviously we're short on volunteers here, so it'd be tough to expand when you're short, I assume, unless this problem
Yes.
went away, which would be the best case scenario. I've told every executive director in here, we hope someday that you're not the executive director because this problem goes away, as kind of put a little light tone on the mood, which it's a tough subject matter.
Right.
And that's what I want to get into also is, Kim, to get into this kind of job, you have to be a special type of person. So, I mean, what kind of led you to know that this is kind of some of my work, being an advocate, now being the executive director? What made you want to do this kind of work?
Honestly, my children were pretty much grown. My youngest son was, doing his own thing, had his own car, didn't need me anymore. And I knew I wanted to do something, I just didn't know what. And I heard a radio ad for CASA, and I thought, that's it. That's what I want to do.
You just knew it off the top of your
I
head?
did.
That's awesome. That's neat. What do we not know about CASA? Maybe we've talked about it for years, but there's always something maybe somebody new, or from an advocate's point of view, we've always had the director in, but maybe something that the advocate does or sees that maybe we don't know out in the public.
The advocates are kind of in a tough situation sometimes when they visit with the parents and the children, when the parents and the children have a visit together. Sometimes those parents aren't always friendly. Sometimes you don't exactly feel safe, and that's really scary for some of the new advocates, and that's why we always try to go along with them. especially their first few times. There's usually a supervised visit from the beginning for several months, so there's always someone else there.
When you don't feel safe, is it hard to do your job too, because you're thinking your mind's racing on other matters, or?
Not really, because our job is just to observe. We just observe and report.
So you don't really ask the student, the child, or the children questions?
Not typically in the beginning. We just kind of watch their interaction. When I was advocating, I would try to get there early so I could see the parents and the children's reaction upon seeing each other, because they don't see each other every day anymore. And then I would try to stay until the very end so I could watch how they said goodbye to each other, and if it was sad for the children or if they were eager to get away. That's very telling.
You said the children don't go to the court. Could they if they wanted, or is that kind of a rule? How's that work?
No, the children are never involved. These are adult matters that they can't comprehend.
Okay.
Which is what brings it back to something that's said about CASA all the time, and it was brought out, both people mentioned it, gives the children a voice. And that's a very good term, because they do not have a voice.
So then do the advocates, the people responsible for these cases, do they go into the court, and does the judge ask them questions? You know, how were the interactions with the children and so on?
What each advocate does before hearings is type up a report that is submitted to the judge beforehand. And it's basically just everything that we've observed. If the children are well cared for in their foster home, what their relationship seems to be like with their siblings and their parents. And we sometimes we take pictures so the judge can put a face with the name of a child.
Can you see how important that report can be?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm sure that could mean everything for the judge in deciding certain things.
Right.
Is it hard to be?
Unbelievable.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, that was it.
No, is it hard to be objective in some situations? I mean, you know, is it just, can you be objective? I guess when you see some instances, some not so pleasant events and things.
Sometimes you have to work really hard to be objective. But at the end of the day, all we care about is the child. And just because, you know, things don't really seem right to us doesn't mean that it's going to be horrible for the child.
In these cases, if there's more than one child, do you have to do you do separate reports for each child, or is it just per family? How does that work? I mean, if they have 3 or 4 children, does that make the job harder?
It does. We write one report and we'll break it down by child.
Okay. So
I would like to come back to one thing, and that was, we were talking about needing volunteers and the time commitment and so on. If we also have needs for people to be on the executive board of CASA. Now, the people on the executive board are not usually advocates too. Usually it's a separate thing. Not that they couldn't be, but usually they're not. That has to be usually a person who has interest in the organization, some knowledge of it, and they can apply for it. And in terms of time commitment, the board meets once every other month. So we're not talking about a great number of meetings. There's other events to be involved with, and so on too. But we'd like a several-year commitment from people who are interested in that sort of thing.
How many board members are you need right now, Dale?
Right now, we could probably use at least 1 or 2.
1 or 2.
We're a little bit short on that. We usually have 12 to 15, and we could use somebody as soon as immediately.
So we need 1 or 2 board members, and we need 12 volunteers to help out CASA of East Central Illinois, which services Coles and Cumberland County. We're talking to Dale Wolf and Kim Carmean. Alicia is here as well. Let's go back to that 25th anniversary dinner that's coming up. It just doesn't seem possible. It's been 25 years since CASA started. Do you set, like, being new now, and this may be something Dale can ask, but do you set goals, or do you set, like, kind of objectives for the dinner that you want it to stand out when you hit a 25-year mile mark like this?
I haven't set any specific goals. This is my first event that I'm creating, so it's been very eye-opening for me. I have never had to plan an event like this before.
Well, at least you got the old pro here.
Yes, I'm thankful.
I just want to get old in there, you know.
There are, I guess in my mind there are a couple of goals. One, to have a nice attendance, to have the word out again about CASA, reminding them it's been around longer than they realize, but also to get people to consider coming to it who have not been involved with a CASA event and hear more about it. Because to have an audience full of people who've either been board members or involved with it in some way, that's wonderful. But we'd sure like to have, since this is a brand new event in the spring, we'd really like to see people come out and take part in it.
It's March 29th. Give us
March
the details
29th.
Again of how people care, when and where and how, if you would, Forrest Kim.
March 29th, 6 p.m. at Unique Suites. Tickets are $25 per person and available at the CASA website at casaeci.org.
Awesome. We're going to come back to you before it's over, but we want to switch a little bit to the EIU Spring Fling that's coming up. And I know it's in April, but I've forgotten the actual date. So talk about what the EIU.
I do remember the date. It's April 6th.
April 6th.
April 6th in Lance Arena. It's an ongoing event. This year, the event is going to be known as Be Inspired. It is literally a benefit auction, and we'll have a plated dinner this year. So there are a few changes.
Yeah, they're trying to fancy it up, for lack of a better way to say it, right?
That is exactly right. It needs to be reminded people it is a benefit for the EIU student athlete. But Saturday, April 6th in Lance, more information as well as tickets and so on can be found at the EIU website in the athletics section.
And it's very important. I mean, we
Yes,
just had
it is.
Coach Cushing on a few weeks ago, and he was, he motivated me. I was ready to join the team, as they say. But
A lot of changes in EIU athletics this year, yeah.
So, but when you say it's important, because people don't realize that we have a lot of sports here at Eastern Illinois University, and they all cost money, and they all have and it's to the benefit of the student athletes. So if you could give a 1-minute speech on why someone should support this event.
Well, first of all, you mentioned one of the things, and that is EIU, for its size, has as many intercollegiate sports or more than most schools of our size, and it makes a difference right there.
When you think about Illinois, I think we're right even with the University of Illinois.
The numbers are very close,
Yeah.
and I think that's how people don't realize that. And these sports have to be taken care of,
Funded.
money-wise and so on, whether it's equipment, travel, et cetera, et cetera. This is the one of the biggest fundraisers that athletics has during the course of a year. Many people give money during the year, just generally, but when it comes to one specific event, this is the one.
And a lot of our EIU athletes will be on hand.
Yes, they are
helping
always
and-
there, helping with auction tables, helping serve, etc.
Any auction items that you know are going to be there? If you want to kind of tease
Some
them?
very nice ones. Usually there's trips, and there are sports items, and there are events. And rather than be too specific, I think that they'll be able to see a great number of these listed online.
And how many will Dale Wolf bid on?
How many? Believe it or not, this will be the first time in, I believe, 35 years I will not be there.
You won't be
because my wife and I will be out of the country. So I cannot make it that night.
It is tough being you, isn't it? It
No.
really is.
No, only
Sounds
my
awful.
age. Only my age.
We have a few minutes left. I don't see any questions for Kim or Dale as we talk about all these different things going on in East Central Illinois with Spring Fling and all this.
Well, how many years has Eastern had Spring Fling? I mean,
I
I
guess
heard
it's
of
not Spring
it.
Fling anymore. I got to get rid of that name.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Okay. To be honest, let's see. I was working on it back in the late 80s, so I do not know
Oh, so
before
it's
that.
been
it's been a
It's
huge
been
thing.
CASA in
It's a
number of
tradition.
years.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. I did want to just try to throw in one more thing that occurred this weekend, if people didn't know, and that was the Bob Spoo Memorial event in the Union. Bob Spoo was the football coach here for 25 years, and anyone who can last 25 years at a school in the
true.
same sport is worth mentioning. And the event was held Saturday afternoon, and a great number of past coaches and players and friends of Bob's, and of course his daughter Katie, were all in town for that, and it was very well received. There were some taped in events from both Tony Romo and Jimmy Garoppolo, both who know knew Bob Spoo very well too. So that was just this past Saturday afternoon.
What
I
a
know
beautiful event.
Ramin from our TV station is still sad he couldn't have been there. Coach Babers was here and
Yes.
met the new so exciting
Eastern
times.
celebrities. That must have been a beautiful event.
Yes.
That's good.
All right, Kim, I'm going to put you on the spot before we get into the world famous 8 questions. Wrap this up. I always ask every time, and Dale knows what's coming. You've been there with CASA, at least as an advocate or now as the executive director. Can you give us a minute recap of just a great success story? And obviously, you can't say names, but just, if it's something that you're just so proud of that you either had a hand in or, CASA had a hand in over the past few years.
Sure. My second case that I was assigned, the mother lost custody of her 3 children, and she worked so hard and so diligently to get her children back. I've never been more proud of one person as a single mother. She just did a fantastic job, and usually that isn't the case, that the children get to go back home. So that really touched my heart that she really stuck it out and did what she needed to do.
How many children did she have?
3.
3. Wow, that is a good success story. So there's always that one that makes you feel good.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right, world famous 8 questions now. You all ready? It's almost baseball season. All right, so just your favorite. We'll just go down the line. You 3 favorite baseball team, and if you want to add player or whatever you can. So
St. Louis Cardinals.
Dale.
I'm sorry. I went to high school just down the street in Wrigley Field, so you figure it out.
Lisa, you
Chicago White Sox.
That sucks. All right. So we have all 3 of our local
Outside.
teams covered. All right. This is mostly for you, but you can talk. You goes. How do you think your leadership style is when you think of how you're going to be a leader at CASA?
I try to be more relaxed and not so stringent on how things get done. As long as everything gets done, that's really all that matters to me.
Dale Wolf, as a leader in the community.
It's interesting because Saturday I ran into a young man who played football here many years ago who was on our staff at admissions for a long time. And he said he used to work for me, and I corrected him because I've always said this. Nobody ever worked for me. They always worked with me.
Oh, good one. As the editor over there.
Sometimes I just like to wing it at this point in my career.
I would echo that sometimes too.
Before I become like an actual adult and graduate and actually have to become a leader, I'm just going to,
An actual adult.
All-time favorite TV or movie, Kim? Throw you a curveball there.
Dirty Dancing.
No, it's Errol Flynn and Robin Hood.
Are you serious?
Oh my God, Errol Flynn.
Yes.
I love Errol Flynn. I have a portrait of him.
All right. Hobby. Do you have a hobby? Anything you do to get away from it all?
I like to read.
Dale?
Well, since retirement, it's probably travel.
Travel, I'll say, yeah.
I wish I could travel.
Do you have a pet and his name or her name?
I have an English Mastiff. His name is Ronan.
Ronan. They're big.
Yeah, he's a big boy.
Yes. We have a dog. He was a rescue dog we've had for 9 years, and he's a 100-pound lab named Moose.
A big dog.
Moose. I like that.
Any animals on you probably don't have? Or
Yes, I
maybe
have a cat.
Cat?
Yeah.
All right. I have a dog named Radar. There you go. Well, Kim, it was great to see you again. And
Thank you. You too.
Congratulations on the new job, and best of luck on the 25th anniversary.
Thank you.
And information is all there at casaeci.org. Dale, it's always great to see you, my friend. And we appreciate all the work you do in this community because you are definitely one of the leaders of Coles County. And Lisa, have a great day.
See you later, Jeff.
We are Hit Mix 88.9 WEIU.